Amid the unfolding crisis, Western countries are being urged by Moscow to help with the evacuation of civilians. As mentioned earlier, a number of attempts at opening humanitarian corridors to date have ended in failure. The next is expected to be made in 5 Ukrainian cities, including the country's capital, today. One of those areas people are desperate to flee from is Mariupol in the country's southeast, where the situation really is grueling. The Russian Defense Ministry is claiming locals are still having to shelter in their basements without gas, electricity, after coming under shelling from Ukrainian nationalists. Earlier, 2 people were shot dead while trying to escape the city via a green corridor. Very few so far have managed to successfully leave. Some who have shared what they'd gone through.
Выходили бегом, зато хватались, то и выходили.
Да, он что взяли только пледы, документы и все.
В час дня уже с города начали лететь снаряды.
Дочь так и осталась в Мариуполе. Связи с ней есть?
Нету связи вообще.
Дороги, которые вот можно было проехать проселочными дорогами, они засыпали камнями. И вот, знаете, ветки большой высоты. Наложили, что там ни машина, ничем не проедет. Многие поддерживают Россию, но об этом никто вслух, как говорится, не говорит, чтобы, как говорится, не нарваться на неприятности. Потому что с этими отмороженными разговаривать тяжело очень. Себе дороже.
There are also claims that fighters from nationalist battalions use people as human shields in an attempt to escape Mariupol. Here's what locals had to say on that.
У нас используют как живой щит. Наши украинские военные. Стреляли по гражданским, по ребенку. 4 дня назад мы с мужем, с ребенком шли домой с подвала, так как сказали в Ляпино все тихо. И по нас открыли огонь с Пожвановской церкви.
Выводили нас, нас расстреливали. Они нас вытаскивали самым прямым образом. Тащили женщин лежачих, мужиков, инвалидов тащили.
Не знаю, почему прикрываются мирными гражданами. Мы остались, да, как пушечное мясо, живой щит. Нас обстреливали, дом разрушен, муж погиб, и его не могут вынести. У меня ребенок остался на другом конце города. Я не знаю, что с ней, жива она или нет.
Не дают выйти и не зайти. Получается, мы, наверное, как в плену сидим. Используют как живой щит, наверное, возьмем так.
The Russian Defense Ministry recently commented on the situation in the city, claiming militants were using terrorist tactics.
According to civilians who escaped from Mariupol yesterday, the situation in the nationalist-occupied city is difficult. People are hiding in basements, and due to a lack of electricity and gas in homes, they are forced to cook on the street, on bonfires. The militants are dispersing them. Nationalists open fire on all civilians who try to leave their homes. People are forced to paint on the walls and doors of houses. Don't shoot. There are children here.
Despite all the difficulties, some refugees made it to Russia from Ukraine. They were taken to the city of Taganrog, where temporary reception facilities were set up in a school gym and hotel. People were given hot meals, medical care and psychological help. Europe, though, remains the primary destination for the refugees. Many women and children have already reached Poland, the main hub, by trains, buses and cars. Countries like Moldova, Romania, Hungary and Slovakia are also accepting large flows of Ukrainians fleeing the conflict. Some refugees made their way to France as well, where they were warmly greeted. Well, we spoke to the president of the International Committee of the Red Cross, Peter Maurer, to get an overview of the current situation in Ukraine.
Well, the humanitarian situation, obviously, as far as we see, is extremely serious. It is particularly serious in urban areas of the countries which see the proximity of civilians and battlefields at the same time. We try the best we can to respond to an increased landscape of needs, hundreds of thousands of people in need, but we also are engaged with the parties in order to find consensus and precise agreements about evacuation routes, about access into besieged and fighting areas, as well as voluntary evacuation and voluntary escape routes for civilian populations. As we see, this is a highly contested issue. It's not the only place in the world where we see difficulties of having precise agreements between the militaries which are able to work in real life. But I appreciate all the efforts from all sides in order to come to functioning agreements, precise agreements, so that the civilians can find safe places, can be protected, and humanitarians can access.